Most people wake up every morning already defeated, and they don't even realize it. Not by circumstances, not by lack of opportunity, not by other people. They are defeated by the same person they see in the mirror. You don't lose your future in one dramatic failure. You lose it in quiet negotiations with yourself. The extra hour of sleep instead of discipline. The excuse that sounds reasonable. The promise to start tomorrow. Life doesn't demand that you be better than anyone else. It only demands that you become better than you were. And that is where the real struggle begins. Because the enemy is not obvious. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you that comfort is harmless, that delay is safe, that effort can wait. Today is not about motivation. It's about confrontation. A confrontation with habits, standards, and choices. Because the greatest battle you will ever fight is not out there. It is while you ves ru. Most people grow up believing that life is a competition against others. They measure success by comparison, by position, by applause, and by how far ahead they seem to be. But the great truth of personal development is this: the most decisive struggle you will ever face is not with another person, but with yourself. Long before life tests your strength, it tests your character. And character is shaped in private, in the silent moments, when no one is watching, and no one is applauding. Every day, you wake up with two versions of yourself. One version wants comfort, ease, and familiarity. It wants to delay effort, avoid discomfort, and choose what feels good right now. The other version wants growth, discipline, and progress. It understands that sacrifice today creates freedom tomorrow. These two versions meet every morning, and one of them will win. Not because of luck or talent, but because of the choices you make repeatedly. The challenge is that the inner opponent is clever. External obstacles are visible. You can see them, name them, and often plan around them. But the internal enemy disguises itself as logic. It whispers reasonable excuses. It says you deserve rest, that you can start later, that today doesn't really matter. And the danger is not that these thoughts sound negative, but that they sound sensible. That is how potential is quietly stolen, one rationalization at a time. Life does not punish you for what you don't know. It punishes you for what you know, but do not apply. Most people already know what would improve their lives. They know they should read more, plan better, take care of their health, sharpen their skills, and manage their time with greater intention. The gap between knowing and doing is where the inner battle is fought. And it is in this gap that most people surrender without ever realizing they were in a fight. You see, external success is always preceded by internal order. If you cannot govern your thoughts, you will never govern your results. If you cannot manage your impulses, distractions will manage your future. This is why personal discipline is not a restriction, but a form of self-respect. It is the decision to live by intention rather than impulse, by values rather than moods. Many people spend years blaming circumstances for outcomes that were actually created by daily neglect. They blame the economy, their upbringing, their lack of opportunity, or the behavior of others. But blaming the outside world gives away your power. The moment you decide that your life is primarily shaped from the inside out, everything changes. Responsibility becomes the foundation of freedom, not a burden. The inner battle is not won in dramatic moments. It is won in ordinary decisions. Choosing preparation over procrastination, patience over impulse, learning over comfort. These decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but they are never neutral. Each one is a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, these votes form habits, and habits shape destiny. Here is one of life's great paradoxes. The discipline you impose on yourself today will spare you the pain you would otherwise experience tomorrow. Self-mastery is not about being harsh with yourself. It is about being honest. Honest about where you are, honest about where you want to go, and honest about the price that must be paid to bridge the distance between the two. When you finally understand that the greatest battle is internal, you stop waiting for permission, motivation, or perfect conditions. You realize that progress begins the moment you decide to stop negotiating with your weaker impulses. The world does not change first, you do. And when you do, the world responds accordingly. Life is constantly moving you in a direction, whether you are conscious of it or not. Every day through your habits, routines, and decisions, you are practicing becoming a certain type of person. The danger is not that people practice failure deliberately, but that they practice neglect unknowingly. They drift, and whatever you drift into rarely resembles the life you once hoped for. Progress is intentional, and without intention, life defaults to mediocrity. What you do repeatedly matters far more than what you do occasionally. A single good decision will not change your life, just as a single poor decision will not ruin it. But repeated actions, repeated thoughts, and repeated behaviors quietly shape your character. The small things you do daily are not small at all. They are the building blocks of your future. Whether it is reading a few pages, sharpening a skill, managing your finances, or taking care of your health, consistency always outweighs intensity. Many people underestimate the power of accumulation. They want dramatic change without embracing daily discipline. They hope for breakthroughs, while ignoring the importance of follow-through. But life is not transformed by big promises. It is transformed by small practices kept over time. What you practice daily becomes effortless eventually, and what becomes effortless becomes permanent. That is how habits turn into identity. You become skilled at whatever you repeatedly do, whether it serves you or not. Practice worry long enough, and it becomes second nature. Practice procrastination, and delay feels normal. On the other hand, practice discipline, and self-control strengthens. Practice gratitude, and perspective improves. Practice learning, and growth becomes part of who you are. Life doesn't judge your intentions, it simply multiplies your habits. This is why personal development is not an event, but a lifestyle. You do not wake up one morning and suddenly become disciplined, confident, or successful. You grow into those qualities by repetition. And repetition does not require perfection. It requires commitment. Missing a day is not the problem, quitting is. The real power lies in returning to the practice even after you fall short. Your environment reinforces what you practice. The books you keep nearby, the conversations you tolerate, the people you listen to, and the standards you accept all contribute to your daily conditioning. If you surround yourself with mediocrity, it becomes familiar. If you surround yourself with growth, it becomes expected. Over time, your environment either supports your future or anchors you to your past. One of the greatest misconceptions is that success requires extraordinary talent. In truth, it requires ordinary disciplines practiced with extraordinary consistency. Most people fail not because the task was too difficult, but because they failed to do the simple things long enough. Life rewards persistence more than brilliance. When you understand that you are always practicing something, you become more careful with your time and attention. You stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming by doing this?" That question alone can reshape your priorities. Every day offers you the opportunity to reinforce progress or reinforce regret. The direction of your life is not determined by a single decision, but by the patterns you repeat. And those patterns, practiced daily, quietly and patiently, determine who you become. One of the greatest challenges in personal growth is learning to act without waiting for the right feeling. Most people allow emotions to sit in the driver's seat of their lives, deciding when to work, when to try, and when to quit. But emotions are unreliable advisors. They change with sleep, weather, mood, and circumstance. If your progress depends on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. Feelings are powerful, but they are temporary. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision made in advance. It is the choice to act according to principle rather than impulse. When you let emotion lead, you start strong and finish weak. When discipline leads, you may start slowly, but you finish strong. Life rewards finishers far more than starters. Your mind will often resist discipline because discipline requires effort before reward. Emotion wants immediate comfort. Discipline is willing to wait. Emotion asks, "What feels good right now?" Discipline asks, "What will serve my future?" That difference, though subtle, separates average lives from exceptional ones. The future is built by those willing to delay gratification. Most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because they wait for it. Motivation is a visitor. It comes and goes. Discipline is a resident. It stays. The mistake is believing you must feel inspired before you act. In reality, action is what creates inspiration. Movement generates momentum, and momentum changes how you feel. There will be days when you don't feel confident, focused, or enthusiastic. Those days are not interruptions to your progress. They are the proving ground of it. Anyone can perform when conditions are perfect. Character is revealed when conditions are difficult. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done, even when it is inconvenient. Your emotions will negotiate with you. They will offer excuses that sound reasonable. You worked hard yesterday. Today doesn't matter much. No one will notice if you skip this once. And the danger is not the excuse itself, but the habit of listening to it. Every time you obey emotion over discipline, you strengthen the wrong voice. Over time, the weaker self becomes louder. Discipline is not punishment, it is direction. It does not limit freedom, it creates it. The person who disciplines their time gains more time. The person who disciplines their finances gains options. The person who disciplines their health gains energy. Short-term discomfort produces long-term independence. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards. Standards are what remain when motivation fades. If your standard is excellence, you will act accordingly even on difficult days. If your standard is convenience, you will always find a reason to stop short. The more often you choose discipline over emotion, the easier it becomes. What once felt heavy becomes natural. What once required willpower becomes routine. Discipline strengthens with use, just like a muscle. Neglect weakens it. The choice is not dramatic, but it is decisive. When discipline becomes stronger than emotion, you stop being controlled by circumstance. You stop reacting and start directing. Your life no longer moves according to mood, but according to purpose. And that shift, quiet, internal, and consistent, is what separates those who merely dream from those who actually achieve. At some point in life, every meaningful change begins with a difficult but liberating realization: no one is coming to rescue you. This is not a pessimistic thought, it is a powerful one. The moment you accept that your life is your responsibility, you reclaim control over its direction. Until then, growth is delayed by excuses, and progress is postponed by blame. Most people are trained, often unconsciously, to look outward when things go wrong. They blame the economy, the system, their family, their past, or the behavior of others. While circumstances influence us, they do not decide our destiny. What ultimately shapes the outcome is how we respond. Responsibility is the ability to respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. Blame offers temporary comfort. It allows you to feel justified without changing anything. But comfort has a cost, and the cost is power. Every time you blame something outside yourself, you surrender control over your future. You may feel better for a moment, but nothing improves. Responsibility, on the other hand, may feel uncomfortable at first, but it gives you leverage. It puts you back in the driver's seat. When you accept responsibility, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do about it?" That question changes everything. It shifts your focus from complaint to solution, from frustration to strategy. You begin to see obstacles not as permanent barriers, but as problems to be managed. Taking responsibility does not mean denying difficulty or pretending life is fair. It means acknowledging reality without surrendering your agency. Life will not always give you what you want, but it will always give you something to work with. Those who succeed are not those with perfect conditions, but those who make the best use of imperfect ones. Personal responsibility also requires honesty. You must be willing to examine your habits, decisions, and patterns without defensiveness. This kind of self-examination is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. But it is also empowering because it reveals where change is possible. You cannot fix what you refuse to own. One of the great turning points in maturity is when you realize that your future does not depend on people agreeing with you, supporting you, or understanding you. It depends on your willingness to do the work regardless. Approval is pleasant, but it is not required. Responsibility means acting in alignment with your goals even when no one is encouraging you. Responsibility sharpens discipline. When you stop blaming, you start planning. You manage your time more carefully because you see its value. You invest in learning because you recognize its return. You take care of your health because you understand the cost of neglect. Ownership creates intention, and intention creates progress. The person who accepts responsibility does not wait for permission to improve. They do not wait for perfect timing, perfect confidence, or perfect conditions. They understand that action precedes clarity. Movement creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. When you fully accept responsibility for your life, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstance and start feeling like a student of life. Every experience becomes feedback. Every setback becomes instruction. And instead of asking life to change, you change, and life responds. Many people believe success comes from rare moments of intense effort, big decisions, dramatic breakthroughs, or sudden bursts of motivation. While those moments may feel exciting, they are not what builds a lasting life. True progress is quieter and far less dramatic. It is the result of showing up again and again, long after the excitement has faded. Consistency, not intensity, is the real power behind achievement. Intensity is emotional. It rises quickly and disappears just as fast. You feel inspired, make bold promises, and tell yourself that everything will change starting today. But when the emotion fades, so does the effort. Consistency is different. It does not rely on excitement, it relies on commitment. It is the decision to continue even when progress feels slow and results are invisible. Life rewards what you repeat. A single day of effort will not change much, but a single day of neglect repeated over time will change everything. The smallest actions, done daily, compound into significant results. Just as interest grows on money, progress grows on habits. Most people overestimate what they can do in a short period and underestimate what they can do over a long one. One of the reasons consistency is so powerful is because it builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable. That belief becomes confidence. On the other hand, every broken promise weakens self-trust. Over time, inconsistency creates doubt, hesitation, and lowered expectations. The greatest damage is not missed results, but lost self-respect. Consistency also removes the pressure of perfection. You don't have to do everything right, you just have to keep going. Progress is not ruined by occasional mistakes. It is ruined by quitting. The people who succeed are not those who never fail, but those who fail and return to the work without drama or delay. Repetition creates mastery. What feels difficult at first becomes easier with practice. Skills sharpen, judgment improves, and efficiency increases. Consistency allows you to refine your approach, learn from experience, and adjust course without abandoning the journey. Improvement is gradual, but it is inevitable when effort is sustained. There is also a quiet discipline in consistency. It trains patience. It teaches you to work without immediate reward. It builds emotional resilience because you learn to act without constant validation. Over time, you develop a calm confidence, knowing that results are being built beneath the surface, even when nothing appears to be happening. Many people quit too early because they mistake silence for failure. Growth often happens invisibly before it becomes obvious. Just as roots grow underground before a tree appears above the soil, progress requires time before it shows results. Those who stay consistent long enough are eventually rewarded with breakthroughs that seem sudden to others, but were earned slowly. When you commit to consistency, you free yourself from emotional swings. You no longer need to feel inspired to act. You simply act because it is who you have decided to be. And over time, that identity, formed by daily repetition, becomes stronger than any momentary doubt. Consistency does not demand heroism. It demands patience, humility, and persistence. But those qualities, practiced daily, have the power to build a life that intensity alone never could. One of the most subtle traps in personal growth is comparison. It quietly shifts your focus away from progress and toward performance. When you measure yourself against others, you begin to live on a scale that was never designed for you. Someone will always be ahead, louder, faster, or more recognized. And if you let that define your sense of worth, you will spend your life chasing shadows instead of building substance. Your real assignment in life is not to outperform someone else, but to outgrow who you used to be. The only meaningful competition is internal. Yesterday's habits, yesterday's thinking, yesterday's standards. That is the benchmark. When improvement becomes personal, growth becomes sustainable. You stop running someone else's race and start running your own. Comparison often creates two dangerous outcomes. If you compare yourself to those ahead of you, you feel discouraged and inadequate. If you compare yourself to those behind you, you become complacent. Neither leads to growth. Improvement requires honest self-measurement, not external validation. The goal is not superiority over others, but progress within yourself. When you focus on beating yesterday's version of you, progress becomes practical. You don't need dramatic transformation. You need daily refinement, slightly better decisions, slightly stronger discipline, slightly higher standards. These small upgrades, repeated consistently, reshape your life far more effectively than sudden overhauls driven by comparison or pressure. Personal growth thrives in clarity, not competition. You begin to ask better questions. Am I more disciplined than I was last month? Do I manage my time better than last year? Is my thinking more mature than it used to be? These questions lead to actionable insight instead of emotional reaction. Growth becomes a process you can control. Focusing on your own progress also builds patience. You stop expecting overnight success and start respecting the timeline of mastery. You understand that improvement is layered, not linear. Some days you advance, some days you stabilize, and some days you correct mistakes. All of it counts as long as you remain committed to forward movement. Beating yesterday's version of yourself also strengthens integrity. You stop performing for applause and start acting in alignment with your values. You do the right thing even when no one is watching, because your standard is internal. That internal standard becomes your compass, guiding decisions regardless of external opinion. When your focus is internal, setbacks lose their power to define you. Failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. You no longer see mistakes as proof of inadequacy, but as instruction for improvement. Each experience, good or bad, becomes useful. Growth accelerates when you stop protecting your ego and start educating it. There is a quiet confidence that comes from self-competition. You are not distracted by trends or pressured by timelines. You trust the process because you can see your own progress, even when others cannot. This confidence is stable because it is rooted in evidence, not approval. When you commit to becoming better than you were yesterday, success becomes inevitable. It may arrive slowly, but it arrives with substance. And when it does, it is not fragile, because it was built on discipline, patience, and self-mastery, not comparison.